WV Uncommonplace. This podcast is a variety podcast that houses numerous series to cover mental health, empowerment, podcast framework, and various intimate theories to get to know the hosts. Along with occasional movies reviews and dives in pop culture with our event podcast episodes. The Uncommonplace digs into bringing guests on that stories don't fit the mold and are very different. WV stands for the great state of West Virginia, and every quarter we cover something in West Virginia. Stacey and myself, JR, are your hosts, so please come along for this venture to our uncommon place.
Welcome to West Virginia Uncommonplace, and real quick, we're going to cover American Dad. We've been covering a lot of animation things. So the thing about these animated shows are there's something that I can watch. They're easy for me to grip. They make sense to me. I know people watch sitcoms, do whatever they want to do. But either way, I'm JR and I'm your host. So here we go. American Dad was created by Seth MacFarlane, Mike Barker, and Matt Weitzman. Premiered in 2005 as a companion series to Family Guy. The show introduced us to the eccentric Smith family headed by CIA agent Stan Smith and their adventures around the fictional town of Langley Falls, Virginia. Now, that Virginia tie-in there may have been something that had kind of hooked me in. And I felt like, man, I could roll with this. They had the alien Roger, the son, the wife, and the daughter. Obviously, I forgot their name, so you have to excuse me on that. So early on, episodes like Homeland Insecurity, the American Dad After School Special, and then that one episode that has Stelios Campos, and he beat up the father. It drew me in. And the one thing that kind of messed me up with this show was that this show had a formula to it, and it relied on that formula way too heavy because it was combating The Simpsons and Family Guy. And for some reason, Fox never addresses this with its animation domination shows unless there's like a way that they can see a divide. For instance, Bob's Burger is totally different from these shows, so it's not going to be competing against this. It's a whole different ecosystem. But that American Dad, Family Guy, Simpsons thing is really close because you're family-themed shows, in the extraordinary adventures of each member in the family. So the show, like the characters and everything, they became stagnant towards the middle. So after that, they just, I don't know, Family Guy dominated too much on Fox. And it seemed like they drew their attention more towards making Family Guy more edgier, more provocative with its humor. And no offense, but American Dad had some good jokes in it, but it was very subtle. And animated sitcoms, shifted a little bit. Like South Park and Rick and Morty were pushing boundaries, were more, their content was tougher, as I want to put it. And Rick and Morty on its own can kind of be signified as one of the reasons that with American Dad's tamer approach to things, it kind of dwindled. So after some time, Fox does like it does everything else that's not The Simpsons. They canceled it, went over to TBS, and it's had a good life over on TBS. And other than that, when it comes to American Dad, it's like they dropped a ball in a few places. Like, this is what I noticed the difference between Family Guy and The Simpsons and every other show. Family Guy got licensed merchandise out the ass, videos, blah, 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 made for TV specials. American Dad has never gotten that kind of treatment. It was more or less kind of treated like, oh, this is the companion, this is the redhead stepchild, and we're going to just kind of move away from the layers of depth of cleverness and other things that make the show what it was in its earlier days. So the stuff that comes out on TBS was a little bit more edgy, but it wasn't very thought through. And it seemed like Roger, the shape-shifting alien, and Klaus, the talking goldfish, they had developed fan bases, so they did a lot of heavy jokes with them and made sure that they had portions that made sense with them in it. And then, just will stand different things that just didn't add up. And it caused the show to fall. And like all these things, they're just little quick episodes I'm doing here just to cover little things, the rise, fall, and the resurgence of American Dad. That's what we'll call this one. And I'll say this, American Dad holds a place with me because it was one of those Seth MacFarlane deals that worked out for a little bit, and then Fox canceled it. So you're going to start seeing a pattern and noticing it with all these that, hey, what is Seth MacFarlane doing to make these Fox executives mad? And another key thing that is taking place in this generation and iteration of shows now is that with Fox being owned by Disney caters to that group to a certain degree, and then that group, once again, they don't cater to because they kind of want to keep that away from the other Disney stuff. And as long as they keep it separate, throw it on Hulu or whatever they're doing, like with Futurama, things work out better. But in the Disney continuum of things, they will not look at American Dad and be like, hey, this is a money grab issue or something like that. This is something that we can just put out the pasture because it's not going to do better than Family Guy and it's not going to do better than The Simpsons. That's why they haven't done anything with Futurama. You see, Hulu brought it back up in those instances. So once again, I'm JR from West Virginia Uncommonplace, and I am signing off.
Please follow WV Uncommonplace on Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter, TikTok, where we have some great content, Facebook, LinkedIn. Hit up the merch store at oncommonplace.square.site. Join the email list from the website, and rate, subscribe, and give feedback from your favorite podcatcher. And lastly, thanks for listening, and tune into the next episode.